Hello, everyone. Today we're going to do a small poem called Life's Beginning by Petrus Brovka. This poem was included in the second PU textbook of around 2006 2007. So, Life's Beginning by Petrus Brovka. There were no toasts, no loaded tables, no songs were sung when we were born, and just our mothers at our cradles crooned over us a tune forlorn. So when the children were born, okay, the children belong to a peasant family. Let's say they are a farmer's family. So because they don't have much money, when the children were born, there were no toasts given. Toast means when you offer a glass of alcohol to your neighbor in celebration of some event. There were no toasts, no loaded tables. There were no tables loaded with food, no tables loaded with delicacies to celebrate the birth of the child. No songs were sung when we were born, and just our mothers at our cradles crooned over us a tune forlorn. So, just their mothers, the mothers are the, you know, people who really care about the children. So only the mothers were at the cradles of the newborn children, and the mothers crooned. Crooned means they sang a tune which was forlorn. Forlorn means melancholy, sad, like that, because they know that the children don't have, you know, much potential or much hope in life. So the mothers at the cradles crooned over the children a tune which was forlorn. They carried us to work each day with none an eye on us to keep, and while they stacked and forked the hay, they left us in the shade to sleep. So the farmer's family, the farmers, they would carry the children to work each day. They used to work in the fields, and there was no one to keep an eye on the children, so no one to look after the children. And while they stacked and forked the hay, they left us in the shade to sleep. So the work the mothers did was stacking hay. Hay is dried grass. You know, you have a haystack on a farm, and you stack the hay with an instrument called the pitchfork. Pitchfork is like a fork, only it's much larger. You can hold it with both hands, and you can use it to shovel hay. And while the mothers were working in on the farm, they left the children in the shade of a tree to sleep. They toiled till dark and knew no rest. When night time came and day was done, for then they rocked us at their breast and hushed us, sleep, my baby son. So the mothers of these children, they toiled. Toiled means they did back-breaking labor. They worked from morning till evening on the farm. But after they came back from the fields, they still did not know any rest, because when night time came and day was done, and after the day was done, they rocked the children at their breasts. They rocked the children and hushed. When the children were crying, they hushed, they calmed the children down by saying, sleep, my baby son. Right? Some days they could not nurse or mind us, so we wouldn't fret or weep. They stopped our mouths with pacifiers, rag dummies soaked in syrup sweet. So on some days, the mothers were too busy to nurse the children or even mind the children. Mind means they were too busy to look after the children. And so that the children wouldn't fret. Fret means so that the children wouldn't become annoyed or irritated or cry. They stopped the mouths of the children with pacifiers. Pacifiers, you can buy it in a chemist shop, you know, the pacifiers which you put in the mouth of the child, what's called the nipple. Rag dummies. These pacifiers, they could not afford to buy these pacifiers. So the pacifiers were rag dummies. Rags are torn pieces of cloth. And these torn pieces of cloth, they were soaked in sweet syrup, like honey or some such thing. And they used to put these rag dummies, rag pacifiers in the mouth of the children. The children would suck on the these rag dummy pacifiers, and they would be quiet. And when harvest time was at its height, they could not take us to the farm. They left us bundled very tight, and they left us bundled very tight, uh, and prayed we wouldn't come to harm. So, during harvest time is the busiest time of the year. When harvest time was at the height, was at its busiest, the mothers could not take us to the farm. So they were too busy to carry the children to the farm. They left the children at in their homes. They left them bundled very tight. Bundled means they would tie them from head to toe with some cloth. They would bundle them, and so that the children wouldn't walk around the house, and come up against a sharp object or something like that. So all they could offer was a prayer to see that the children wouldn't come to any harm if they're left to themselves. We wriggled free and crawled outside into the sunlight and the heat, and on the prickly stubble tried to learn to walk on shoeless feet. But the children, nevertheless, they wriggled free. They moved from side to side, up and down, and they got free of the bonds of the cloth they were tied in. They wriggled free and crawled outside into the sunlight and the heat. They went out into the broad daylight, and outside the hut there was some grass. The grass was, it was cut grass. So cut grass which is dried is very sharp. So that is called stubble. So that stubble used to prick their feet. They learned to walk on shoeless feet. So the children couldn't even afford to buy any shoes. So they learned to take their first steps out in the open on shoeless feet. The world seemed strange and very new. All things look different when you walk. Familiar things you thought you knew, the cat, the chickens, and the dog. So the world to the children seemed strange and very new. Up to this time, they've been carried by their mothers. So they were lying down, they were prone, they were lying in a prone position. But when they learn to walk, they're in an upright position. So they're looking at the world from a different angle. So all things look different when they walked. And the familiar things they thought they knew, like the cat, the chickens, and the dog, all the farm animals, they looked very different. They looked new. And stranger still, the rustling trees, the moon, the thunder, and the rain, the silence and the rising breeze, the creaking of the bucket chain. So, this is by day, the farm animals look very strange, but by night, it's stranger still, because outside you see the trees, the rustling of the leaves in the trees. When the wind passes through the leaves, it makes a rustling sound. The rustling trees, the moon, the thunder, and the rain, the silence and the rising breeze. Even the sound of the thunder and the sound of the pattering of the raindrops, the sight of the moon, the silence, even the silence, absence of sound, and the rising breeze, the creaking of the bucket chain in the well, all these were even stranger than the sight of the farm animals to the young children. So this is how they start their life. And then what happens? Day followed day, the years rolled on. Our shoulders broadened, arms grew strong, with faces washed by many rains, dried in the morning wind and sun, we started out upon our own. So day followed day. A day after day, they passed the time. The years rolled on. So the years, one year after they followed the next. And as they worked on the farm, the shoulders broadened. They became broad, and their arms grew strong, and their faces were washed by many rains. So many rainy seasons they were outside, and their faces were washed by the rains, and they were dried in the morning wind and sun. Finally, what happens? They started out upon life on their own. So they started out upon life on their own, away from the parental care. So this is the poem, and it's written by a poet called Petrus Brovka, and okay. So it was there, as I said, in the second PU textbook of 2006 2007. Thank you.